this young professional is highly experienced and has achieved some pretty great things. So Matt Vance is a social innovator. He's the co-founder and CEO of Mobrium, the employer reputation company. He and his wife co-host a podcast called The Culture Prophet. And he is the award-winning author of The Review Cycle. If you'd like a copy of his book, if you'd like it signed, stop by his booth, number 10 downstairs. Yep. And we welcome you and we welcome Matt to the hiring quest in the age of showcase company culture. So Matt, thank you for being here.
Thanks everyone, and thank you, Curtis. And I do have to say, Curtis and I chatted a little bit this morning, and he gave me one of these. It's a pizza cutter, and I have to say, like, what they're doing is definitely cutting edge, but they have literal cutting edge technology at their booth. So go by and get one of these and see what they're offering. But yeah, thank you for having me. My name's Matt Vance. And just before we kind of jump into this, I have to ask, who is a recruiter? Okay, so we've got some recruiters. Who's over benefits? Compensation? Safety? Generalist, like anything that isn't covered, like, oh, employer branding. Who's over employer branding? Got to mention that one. Over here? Okay, fantastic. So today I want us to think about, for this session, oh, can you hear me okay? I realize I don't have the mic. Is this better? Should I use the mic? Okay. So today for this session, let's think a little bit differently about our roles. So we're going to put on a little bit of a different business hat. If you're in recruiting for the next hour, I want you to imagine you're a salesperson. If you're in employer branding, you're in marketing. If you're in benefits and compensation, that's like research and development for products, right? All of these different roles that are housed within HR have almost like an equivalent for building and selling products and services. And so let's think about our roles a little bit differently for this hour as we talk about showcase company culture. So we already kind of talked a little bit about me. That's the book. You can get your own copy. We also have it on Audible and Kindle if you prefer to read books that way. And then the podcast, it's really fun. If anyone's feeling brave and you actually want to be on the podcast, we're doing a one-question interview. And I see some of you in here that have done it. So if you stop by, yep, Cass in the back, she's done it. If you want to be on the podcast and have your 60 seconds of fame, come to booth 10. We have a one-question interview you can do. Okay, so today I'm all about managing expectations. So I'm going to start by telling you what I'm going to tell you. And then as we go, I'm going to tell you specifically, and at the very end, we're going to recap what we've learned. So we're going to talk about why we should ask for employee reviews and how that impacts our showcased company culture, what that means, what it does for a business, and what it does to impact job seeker behavior and other people's behaviors as well. Then I'm going to give you 8 specific things you should consider as you ask for employee reviews. And then we're going to end up with a 6-step checklist that you can take right after this session and get started in your own company doing this exact thing. So let's talk about why. Why should you ask for employee reviews? Well, there's a lot of information out there that connects the dots between ratings and reviews and sales. So think about yourself as a consumer for a moment. Who's ever bought products on Amazon? Okay, who's ever bought products and looked at reviews first? Who has never considered reviews ever when purchasing a product? One person? Okay, so that's about true. This is the average. 97% of people reference online reviews in some form. It doesn't mean for every single purchase you ever make, but we all use online reviews. And they're highly influential. So I want to tell you about a study that HubSpot did. They looked at the trustworthiness of different business professionals. And at the very top of the list, they found doctors were the most trusted business professional. 49% of consumers trust their doctor. 1 out of 2. Maybe you'd think it should be higher, right? Firefighters were number 2, 48%, and then it goes all the way down the list. At the very bottom, you had salespeople and marketers. 3% of people trust salespeople and marketers. And at the very bottom, 1% was politicians. Question?
Where does HR fit?
That's a great question. I'm not going to tell you. You just have to assume where you're at. Somewhere in the middle. But what I can tell you is there's this thing that I call trust arbitrage. Okay? Everyone knows the term arbitrage, buy low, sell high. 85% of people trust online reviews because it's crowdsourced information. Well, they trust it as much as a personal recommendation. So if I'm Matt Vance, Vance Refrigeration, trying to sell you a refrigerator, and I say, you should buy this fridge. It's my favorite one. It has this cool feature, it has this cool, the ice tray is amazing. You should buy it. Well, I have a 3% influence because we as consumers naturally believe that, well, obviously I have something to gain. I'm selling you something, right? And for all you know, I'm pushing the model that has the biggest profit margin or the biggest commission for me, and I'm not thinking about you, right? But instead, if I shift my influence and say, this model has a 4.7 stars, 15,000 reviews, here are the things that other customers like about this fridge. This feature, this feature, this feature. All of a sudden, trust goes way up. Okay, so that's why marketers, remember employer branding, we market the employee experience. Marketers selling products use reviews in ads on Facebook, on Google, and other places because they are more efficient for your spend, right? You're getting 50% the costs to have 4 times the click-through to your product that you're selling. Okay, so how does that spill over to Amazon specifically? So before I got into the company culture and employer branding space, I managed product reviews. And it was for a lot of listings. My team managed 15,000 product listings over 50 different e-commerce sites. So I had a lot of data to see a lot of trends of how reviews correlated with sales. And this is the one that will probably blow your mind. The difference between a 4.3 star product and a 4.2 star product on Amazon is 100%. Sales will literally double or cut in half with that 0.1 star difference. Now it's because a 4.3, you can see this visually, if I have a little button right here, it visually rounds up to 4.5 stars. 4.2 rounds down to a visual 4 star. So that 0.1 is actually a half star difference. Okay, so there's a lot there with filtering behaviors and what people will buy and what they won't buy. So how do ratings and reviews affect recruiting and what jobs we want to apply for? Well, just like everyone uses reviews for what restaurant they want to go to, what product they want to buy, we use them for shopping for jobs. And you can see the stats up here. 1 out of 3 declined offers is impacted by negative reviews. 57% of candidates will avoid companies with negative reviews. Now, this is not groundbreaking. In fact, it's pretty much on par with the same type of stats for how ratings and reviews impact restaurants, products, and everything. Because guess what? We're all people, we're all consumers, and we have the same type of habitual decision making that happens. And reviews and ratings for employees are no different. But even if a company is legitimately good, has great culture, or is legitimately poor in the company culture space, those ratings impact not only the volume of people that are applying for jobs, but it does affect profitability. This is one of my favorite studies of all time. Glassdoor, they looked at the stock performance of publicly traded companies over a 10-year time period and found that they would outperform the S&P 500 by 7.8 to about 19%. So if you just invested in companies that are making the best place to work list every year and made your own little index fund, you would outperform the S&P 500. And as we know, culture is a huge impact for people's decision making. And if you want it directly translated to dollars, people are 6 times more likely to change jobs for culture than $10,000. So that's the number that you have to compare to. So if you have subpar culture as dictated by your ratings and reviews, not whatever you think, not what an ENPS score tells you or an engagement score, what is publicly found online, then you're paying a premium on your talent every time you hire. So why is that? Well, there's this guy named Lee Atwater. He was the presidential campaign manager to George W. Bush Sr. He coined this term, perception is reality, and he changed the way that presidential campaigns are run in the US. He disrupted the political space, I guess you could say. Essentially what he did is, instead of taking the side on a campaign that had objective facts to back it up, he first wanted to seek to understand public perceptions. He wanted to know what side people believed the most. That was the side that was easier to win, and that's the side that they would take, and we know that he was successful. So here, let's just do one little test in here. Who in this room, who thinks the room's a little warm? A little too warm? Who thinks it's too cold? Anybody thinks it's about right? Okay, so no one thinks it's cold. Some people think it's warm, some just right. Who is correct? Right, well, we can go look at the thermostat, and I can tell you precisely what the temperature is, but no one's right or wrong when it comes to something like that. It is a perception metric. So we can measure how many people feel it's too warm or feel it's about right, and then we can make decisions based off of that. And that is actually how we measure company culture. It's based on feelings, and we can quantify the health of company culture based on things like that. Okay, so principle number 1, reviews and ratings shape perceptions and are connected to dollars. We cannot ignore the impact that ratings and reviews have on the financial performance of our business. Okay, this is a story that I talk about in my book. At one point I was working for a company, and I was tasked with researching another company that we wanted to acquire. Essentially, I did a reputation audit, and I measured the health of their company culture as perceived by data that was publicly available. And I found this review. I saw myself growing with company name removed, but I would rather chop off a finger than work for a bunch of corporate snakes that cannot sufficiently run a business. Who's ever had a negative review that just kind of irked them? Anybody? That happens, right? But this is a game of chess. Don't let it get to you. So we went ahead and negotiated to acquire this company at a severe discount. We used their very poor, very subpar reputation as bargaining chips to acquire this company for substantially less money. And then post-acquisition, they got new leadership, and I was consulting the executive team on how to have some company culture change, to initiate some surveys, to understand the opinion of the employees, and to make a meaningful difference. So I went and visited the corporate headquarters of this company, and I didn't know what I would expect. Like, are people going to be yelling at me and throwing things? Are they jerks? Am I going to shake someone's hand that only has 4 fingers? Like, what am I going to find here? Well, to my surprise, everyone was way nice. It was awesome. Okay, and it wasn't just a showcased fluke, like they were just all trying to be nice because the other guy from the company that acquired us is here. Like, I interacted with lots of people in different capacities, in email, video calls, and essentially what I found was this company was suffering from something called, oh yeah, gotta have the emojis, right? It's not a presentation without that. They were suffering from something that I talk about in my book called the law of self-selecting extremes. So when you don't ask for feedback, all you get is the polar opposites, the people that had a way negative experience or a way positive experience. The experience alone was strong enough to get them to go out of their way to share. So think about restaurants, like your own lived experience. If something was absolutely horrible or absolutely amazing, you may go out of your way to share that feedback. But as you lower the barrier to participate and you proactively ask for feedback, you essentially unlock this silent majority that tends to be mostly positive. And then as you optimize the way in which you ask, better timing, better wording, appealing to motives for sharing, you unlock even more feedback. And as you get a more representative sample, it tends to be a lot more positive. So back to the story of this company that we acquired. About 6 months into our post-acquisition, We had done a full engagement survey. All of the scores had come back, and they were pretty good, 65% engagement. That translates to about a 4.0 star rating. When we acquired the company, they had a 2.6 star rating. So not a lot had changed, but it was substantially higher. And then over the next 4 months, we were at 10 months, we were able to get their ratings to, I think it was about 4.3 or 4.2 stars. And that was without a lot of change to the actual experience. So there was this huge gap, right? 2.6 stars because of not having very much representation. They had 65 reviews spanning an 11-year time span. So that's roughly 1% of employees had shared reviews. But if you pull up their profile, you see, oh, 65 reviews, 2.6 stars, I'm out of here, right? Like, that's what's shaping perception. So that's what we want to influence. Okay, so principle number 2 is you need to ask. You need to ask for feedback to increase your ratings and reviews. Okay, the next principle, it's not just job seekers that are looking at reviews. And it's not just their behaviors that are at stake, for better or for worse. Job seekers are considering if they should apply or not. Current employees are basing their perceptions of you as their current employer. Like, think about this. If I'm looking at my long-term career plan, I'm looking at all the companies on my history on LinkedIn, I don't want to be tainted. I don't want my personal brand tainted with the sour brand of a horrible company culture, right? Why does everyone say ex-Amazon, ex-Google, ex-Netflix on their headlines on LinkedIn? Because there's prestige that comes with having worked there. If you're a 2.6 star company, no one's doing that, right? Okay, so we need to think about this. And investors, I have spoken with different investors for different types of use cases who also research employee reviews to decide where they want to put their money. Customers also do that. Now, as the price ticket of what you sell goes up, like if you're a paper plates manufacturer, you're not going to have customers looking up your employee reviews to say, should I buy paper plates from these guys? But if you're an automaker, say you're Toyota, do you want to buy from Toyota because, well, if they have a 2.6 star rating and they treat their factory workers horribly, like all of a sudden now that takes a more direct impact on your behavior, your buying behaviors as a customer. Okay, so principle number 3 is that there are many stakeholders that we can't ignore that are being directly influenced by our ratings and reviews as an employer. Okay, the next one, or this is the recap. So 3 main reasons why you need to ask for reviews. Ratings and reviews directly shape perceptions and have a direct impact on profitability. Asking for reviews will increase your star ratings, and that's not manipulation. This is not some black hat illegal thing that we're doing. We have every right to ask for feedback. And in my book, I talk specifically about FTC considerations of legality, of what to do and what not to do. But asking for a review is 100% legal and allowable and should be encouraged. Employee reviews and ratings also impact other stakeholders.